we'll move on to the next item. Item B, please.
Item 6B, waive second reading and adopt ordinance enacting 1.87% rate increase for Recology San Bruno garbage and recycling service to be effective October 1st, 2021.
Thank you very much. And at this time, are we turning this over to Director Ritchie?
This would be for Director Sun.
Okay, Director Sun, if you would please, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and member of the Council. Let me bring up the presentation first. Can you see my screen? Great. So this is to adjust the garbage rate effective October 1st, 2021. We actually talked about most of the content last week, so this is just going to be refresh course, and I'll run through the PowerPoint slides pretty fast, and it's getting late, so it won't take very long. The objective is the same as last week. We want to provide an overview of the Recology rate application for the fiscal year 21-22 and describe the review process. And the purpose is to waive the second reading and adopt an ordinance enacting a 1.87% rate increase for Recology effective October 1st, 2021. The agenda basically will go over some background of the franchise agreement, what happened in the rate adjustment and some historical rate comparison, and then give you a timeline and process we have done in accordance with Proposition 218, and then we will request a waiver of the second reading and ordinance adoption. Let me go through some detail of the franchise agreement. As we have talked about it before, the franchise agreement between the City of San Bruno and Recology started from July 1, 1998, and it will expire on June 30, 2024. This is for solid waste collection service. It covers billing, record keeping, billing fees, etc. And the current year rate adjustment is based on interim rate year adjustment. Basically, the rate adjustment is purely rely on CPI adjustments. For the next fiscal year, in that fiscal year 22-23, we will do a detailed rate year adjustment, which will be reviewed by an independent consultant. This effective garbage service rate request increases of 1.87%. New rate should be taking effect in the current fiscal year, but the effective date has been postponed by 3 months, so the effective date is actually October 1st. And the factor, as we talked about, was purely based on the CPI calculation. And here is the last about 12 to 13 years of rate adjustments. The darker line are the detailed year rate adjustment, and the gray line is the interim year and rate adjustments. The average interim rate year adjustments is about 2.23%. For the upcoming, and for this fiscal year, we only have 1.87%, which is lower than the average. And here I just give you a sample of a residential and commercial rate comparison between what the customers are paying now, and then what the rate is going to be effective October 1st. For the most commonly used residential toter at 32 gallons, the increase is only about 60 cents per month. Recology agreed to postpone the rate at the beginning from July 1 to September 1. The city had to revise it to October 1st because of some legal compliance issues with the ordinance adoption and the effective time frame. Together with the postponed rate increase, Recology also proposed a pilot program which was launched on July 1st, 2021 what I like to point it out to you is last week I may have given you some incorrect information, and thanks to the city manager, he pointed out. So I want to recap the the pilot program on the abandoned waste collection. So this program started on July 1st, 2021. In this program, Recology will be collect and dispose of some of specified abandoned waste during the regular business hours. The waste can be reported through the San Bruno response citizen reporting application, and then also can be observed in the public right of the way along Recology daily trash collection routes throughout the city, and as observed during regular patrol of the hotspot at which abandoned items are regularly or frequently deposited. The pilot program of this abandoned waste program will actually last about 6 months, and after that, Recology will determine whether additional staff will be added to the program if necessary. We sent out a public notice on June 29th, providing the explanation on the public hearing schedule, protest period, approval process, rate adjustment, and proposed increase for different container types. As of August 18th, we only received 20 written protests from residents. The requirement for 218 is a minimum of 50% of the residents in order for this rate increase to be for the council to reject the rate increase. So we are well below the mandatory 50% requirement. This is a timeline we are pretty familiar with by this timeline by now. The council directed staff provide a 45-day notice on June 22nd. We mailed it June 29th. Last week, we had the first reading. This right now is the second reading. We asked the council to adopt. If the council adopts the ordinance, the rate will become effective on October 1st. So as staff, we recommend the council waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance enacting 1.87% rate increase for Recology to be effective October 1st. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Director, for your report. Members of the public, if you wish to speak on this item, if you could raise your hand at this time, and if I could turn to my colleagues if there are any questions on the presentation. Not seeing any hands from the community at this time. Is there any action by council?
You have a comment?
Oh, there you go. Councilor Mason.
Thank you. So I appreciate Recology's review of council's request to cancel rate increases this year, even though the request was not granted. Although thankful for the postponement, I can't support an increase this COVID-19 year where the pandemic has impacted so many and the true results from those struggling are yet to be seen. Aside from the belief that the timing of this increase as the Delta variant is increasing is not right for our community, I'm also disappointed that Recology has not yet prioritized adhering to its contract term dedicated to an annual fundraiser for our local schools. At last year's hearing on May 12, 2020, I posed a number of questions regarding contract adherence that both had to do with city community benefits and the school district's benefits, and have since discussed this with staff. A number of the questions raised revolved around Recology's 24-year contract with San Bruno and the benefits to the community that result from the contract outside of the standard franchise fee. Since that hearing, Recology has provided some wonderful enhancements that have produced great results, including the fall and spring cleanup envisioned by past council member Davis and the abandoned waste program envisioned by city staff and Recology. As a council member, I want to thank you for working with staff and other members of the council to initiate these ideas and follow through with the community benefits portion that benefit our city. However, one of the greatest needs in our community are our schools. This was first raised as an issue over a year ago and has been brought up since then, and I have checked on its progress throughout the past year. Schools were open all last year in San Bruno, and even with remote working, the district office and school offices were open for drop-ins. We need to ensure that all terms, especially those that are meant to benefit our community, especially our local schools that are suffering so much right now financially, are being adhered to, especially once they have been brought to our attention and there has been sufficient time to address the lack of adherence over the past 23 years. Thank you, and I will not be supporting this increase tonight.
Any other comments or questions from colleagues? Vice Mayor Medina.
Yeah, can staff or if Recology's here discuss a little bit about what the amount of money typically is involved for the fundraising? What amount are we talking about? And just to hear a response from Recology on Councilwoman Mason's comments, it would be helpful to understand what the other side of the story is.
Let me just check with City Manager. I just saw your mic go on, so that's why I was suggesting you or whom you might feel to answer that.
Sure. Through the mayor, Vice Mayor Medina, my recommendation would be we not get into the specifics of the contract tonight. We will be going into discussions with the City Council about the future of the city's garbage franchise. I will be sending the City Council with the schedule of that. It is a very long process, and we do need to begin in early 2022. With regard to the recycling coordinator and the work that is done with regard to that position, that is a component of the contract that is, I know that there are questions. The city and Recology have been talking about that. And I just think that's more appropriately to talk about at a later time when we're talking about the contract and all the sections. Tonight's agendized item is a rate increase based on the contract provision for interim years where there's a increase based on the CPI. We do have Kristen Pinoki from Recology here. Should she like to provide any additional feedback, I just wanted to note that she is in the room.
I have a question for our city attorney then while we're...
Go ahead, Vice Mayor. I didn't get the mute off. Sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so for our city attorney, I know we've gone through this a few times about the contract language, and at this point, we are here to do our part in complying with the contract language. That for the city council to not, what are the consequences for the city not granting this increase?
So, right, as we've discussed before, the contract does require that we have annual rate adjustments, and it allows the city to vet the amount of those adjustments, which the city has done in this year and in all prior years, as far as I know, to make sure that that Recology is asking only for the rate adjustment that they are allowed to receive under the contract. The questions, I think, as the city manager indicated about other non-financial contract provisions is something that appears will be addressed separately.
And it's your recommendation that we comply with our contract.
I always recommend that all parties comply with contracts.
Right, and the likely consequence would be that if the city doesn't approve this rate increase, that Recology would still be able to obtain that increase, just the city would pay for it.
Well, also, right, not to speculate about Recology, what they might or might not do. I think that there would certainly be some risk in the city not approving the agreement and would perhaps call the city in a default of the contract under some circumstances anyway.
Understood. So just for the public, I'm clear what I'm going to do here. But for the public to understand, if there's anything outside of these terms that we're voting on, if there's something that isn't proper, allegedly on a contract, that could be resolved at what time?
So normally the non-financial terms of the contract have various provisions about notice and opportunity to cure and so on, so that those non-financial provisions that can't always be used as a lever to extract other financial concessions from that part of the contract. And so, there are various provisions in the agreement. I know that Councilmember Mason has asked for a review, and that's an operational staff issue that I'm not addressing. I'm only indicating that in general, the financial provisions and the requirement for the city to approve those increases, so long as they are complied with the contract, are in the contract, and I recommend that the city council does approve them under these circumstances.
Thank you for that clarification. So I will be supporting this. However, I really want to hear sooner than later what progress is being made on the additional items that Councilwoman Mason is bringing up. So those are my comments for now. And Mr. Mayor, it's all yours.
Thank you. Councilor Mason, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to let Vice Mayor Medina know that in looking into when the last fundraiser was for schools, nobody could actually remember. So, I think that says a lot.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can just go ahead and understood, and we need to get to the bottom of it, and things happen with long contracts, and I do want to thank you for bringing it up. I still believe that I am required. I could vote no, yes, but based on the information provided before me, I will be voting yes. But we still need to look into the items that you're bringing up and make sure everything's made whole. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments from colleagues? If not, I would just, Vice Mayor, thank you for asking the questions that you did. We are under a contract. Councilmember Mason, you've asked a question. And I know this is not a fundraiser, but I certainly appreciate the Coach for Kids or the compost and those other elements, or this trial period that Recology is doing. But yes, if there's something in the contract that needs to be solidified, I think that should be, and there should be some kind of a response. But I will be supporting this at this time. Seeing no other hands from the community or from my colleagues, there is an action, and if it's to proceed forward, it would be to waive the second reading. Is there any action?
Motion to waive the second reading?
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? So so no. So we have a 4-1 on not waiving the second reading. Since we have a clear majority, the second reading does not have to be read in its entirety. So we can move on to the any action on the adoption of the ordinance.
Motion to approve the ordinance?